Hey Dragon Slayers! Today's video is about statins, which are cholesterol lowering drugs, arterial plaquing, and their connection to insulin resistance. So, statins are one of the most commonly used medications today. They are used to reduce cholesterol levels and thus are intended to reduce the risk of heart disease. For those with a known genetic defect that increases cholesterol to very high levels, this might indeed be the case. However, for people without this rare genetic disease and who have never had a heart attack, yet are at high risk based on conventional blood lipid markers, such as LDL levels, statins provide remarkably little benefit, possibly because statins actually appear to increase the ratio of pattern B to pattern A LDL cholesterol. Independent of its effect on cholesterol, statins have side effects relevant to insulin resistance. Postmenopausal women who take statins may increase their risk of developing type 2 diabetes by up to 50%. We are gaining an ever clearer picture of how statins cause insulin resistance. While some of the effects may be statins damaging muscle tissue, statins also block the cell's responsiveness to insulin and promote the release of hormones that increase glucose in the blood, making insulin have to work harder to lower glucose. And the more insulin that you have in your blood leads to insulin resistance over time. Atherosclerosis is the most essential process in the development of heart disease. Our great fear of cholesterol stems from the theory that it leads to atherosclerosis, a process wherein the blood vessels become hardened and narrowed. But let's look at this process more closely. As described before, to be pathogenic, cholesterol must pass into the blood vessel wall. However, cholesterol being deposited in the inner wall cells isn't in and of itself the cause of the disease. When they enter the inner wall, cholesterol and fats are benign. They appear to elicit no negative response. Indeed, the cells that line blood vessels, like all other cells in the body, need cholesterol and fats to maintain healthy function. Nevertheless, the lipids may not be benign for long. In certain people, something happens to the cholesterol and the fats that makes them noxious. The switch is flipped when the fats and or the cholesterol are oxidized, which means when oxidative stress is high. Once that happens, white blood cells called macrophages engulf the oxidized lipid to prevent it from oxidizing other parts of the cells. The name macrophage comes from the Greek word that means big eater, which is apt considered how these cells work. They swallow up and digest pathogens, foreign substances, and cellular debris. Over time, the macrophage will become loaded with oxidized fat or cholesterol. The lipid laden cell is known as a foam cell due to its foamy appearance under a microscope. This foam cell then recruits help by releasing proteins to signal more macrophages to come over to the area, and that is known as an inflammatory response. The newcomers also become foam cells over time, and this worsens the problem. Eventually, this mix of foam cells and lipids becomes the core of the atherosclerotic plaque. At the risk of complicating the problem, as much of the focus has been on cholesterol, it's more valid to spread the blame to include non cholesterol fats as well. In particular, the polyunsaturated fat called linoleic acid, which is very common in seed oils such as soybean oil, is the most readily oxidized fat, far more so than cholesterol, and is likely the main culprit. In fact, when cholesterol gets oxidized, it's often due to linoleic acid being bound to a cholesterol molecule. It kind of piggybacks on and hitches a ride into the cell wall. Nevertheless, even here, insulin resistance is still relevant. Insulin resistance is an important risk factor for atherosclerosis. This is likely because insulin resistance stimulates the two main variables thought to be involved in this disease. We already discussed one, the role of insulin in increasing LDL pattern B subtype, and LDL pattern B can carry the problem fats like linoleic acid. Other variables is the oxidative stress. Insulin resistance seems to increase oxidative stress, and later we'll see that it goes both ways, and that oxidative stress also increases insulin resistance. That's what I've got for you guys today. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it really helps the channel out. And remember, guys, that together, you and I will slay the dreaded diabetes dragon.